Hello, my name is Sarah Chandler, and I'm an agriculture teacher at Bartlett-Yancey High School. Thank you for joining me for the Certifying Students in Various Learning Environments session, and I hope you stick around for the live Q&A at the conclusion of this session. So to begin with, I would like to just give you a quick background about me so that you can hopefully understand what I'm talking about when I show you my teaching standards and the things that I have to follow and how I integrate the certification modules into my mandated curriculum. So I do have a bachelor's and master's in agricultural education. I received my bachelor's from NC State University and my master's from NC University. I live in Caswell County, North Carolina, which is center of the state up against the Virginia border. And while I'm kind of going through a little bit about my teaching and ICV experience, I would love to know where you're from. So in the chat, just share where you're from, and if you want to share the school you teach at, that's awesome too, so that we can kind of see where our colleagues are and maybe reach out to each other for some support and assistance if needed. So I have right around 6 years of ICV experience, my first year being a senior in college and working through planning for student teaching and student teaching. As a student teacher, I taught horticulture 1 and 2. And then as a full-time high school teacher, I started out teaching environmental and natural resources 1 and 2, agricultural production 1 and 2, and agri-science applications. The state did a little bit of rearranging in our courses. So my administration asked me what I wanted to teach. I said animal science, and now I am the proud creator of the animal science program here at my high school. This is the high school that I grew up in. I graduated from here, and I'm actually teaching students in the same classroom that I learned about environmental and natural resources when I was a student here. This is one of the 2 classrooms that I truly found my passion for agricultural education and FFA, and I love kind of turning that around and allowing my students to share that same passion with me. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about why ICV industry certifications. I'm going to run through it extremely quick because I know that there are other sessions that talk about these same things. I'm going to show you how I integrate my certification modules into my curriculum so that hopefully you can turn that around and integrate them into your curriculum. I'm going to share with you a little bit about how I have certified students online, in person, which usually I'm using a hybrid method when my students are fully in person, and an on-paper type option. And I'm just going to share a few general tips that have allowed me to have a high success rate when certifying students through ICV. So why ICV industry certifications? My first question for you is, have you used a certification through ICV in your classroom? If not, have you done any credentials for your students? Again, any of the questions you can answer in the chat. We can hopefully talk a little bit back and forth and feed off of each other and feed off of each other's ideas and experiences. So number 1, industry certifications and credentials are huge. Anywhere you go in education, there's a push for industry certifications and credentials. ICV makes it super easy. It's there, the whole program is there. All you have to do is help facilitate your students walking through this program, proctor a certification test, and boom, they're done. They're complete. They get a certificate upon completion in the mail. It's a very fancy, professional, formal certificate that they can hang up, keep in a folder, whatever they would like to do with it. They can share it with employers, schools, scholarships, all kinds of things like that, that will say, oh, hey, you have a nationally recognized certification. The ICV certifications allow students to do virtual field trips, which was really great during the pandemic, and view virtual interviews with career professionals so that they can have an inside look at career options and what it looks like as far as what they want to do. So if they want to be a veterinary assistant, there are veterinarian interviews there that they can watch and learn a little bit more about that profession. So To start off, I'm going to just share with you a few that I have experience with. I'm going to focus today on the Elanco Veterinary Medical Application Certification. And before I get too far into this, I want to say that I did work with Miss Lisa Barnett, who is our ICV representative here in North Carolina. And I worked closely with her to try to figure out the best way to share some of this information with you, because I know this is a national conference. I want you to get the most out of this. So I'm just going to show you the components of my course and how I work this all into each other and how everything works together. And hopefully you're going to be able to apply what I have for you to your personal situation. So again, I'm going to focus on that veterinary medical application certification. I've also done the fundamentals of animal science certification for my level 1 students as kind of a supplemental certification. And then my teaching partner has had advanced studies students complete the BASF plant science certification as well. So we've worked with a couple of these. I plan to work with more in the future, but for right now, this is what I have the experience in. So like I said, I'm going to show you a little bit of information just so that you can kind of see how everything works together on my side of things. This is our NC-CTE standards that NCDPI provides to us for our veterinary assisting honors course. There are 9 standards with 2 objectives in each standard. And basically what I will do is I will take this list of modules. So this is what your side or my side on the instructor side of the certification looks like. It gives you each module or lesson that's in the ICV certification. You can cut it on and off as far as is it required for the certification or not. I highly suggest you leave them all on. That's what I do. I never turn any of them off. And I take these lessons and I integrate them into this blueprint. So what that looks like, sorry, let me talk about this really quick before I share what that looks like. This is what our side looks like when you click on those lessons. So here I have clicked on the Animals in Society lesson, which is the very first lesson in the certification. This is the last third of the web page that's going to pop up for you. So the very first third is going to be the instructional material. So your PowerPoints or videos or interviews, all the things that the students are going to be able to access. The second thing available to you is a whole list of printable instructional materials. And then the third thing is going to look like this, so interactive assignments. So I'm just sharing what the online technical buttons allow you to do, because we all kind of understand how to print things, but this is kind of our technology controls on our side. So we can choose what shows on our grades report. So if I'm only going to grade the assessments, which is what I have on here, then when I run that grades report from ICV, it's only going to show me the grades from the assessments. I can take away assessments, I can add activities, whatever I want to do, I can make the grade report fit what I want. I can make it deactivate on a date. So if I want my students held to a certain expectation, I can deactivate certain lessons or certain assignments within the lesson on a certain day, so that if it's not done by that day, they can't do it. They're going to have to ask me to open it back up. You can share with Google Classroom. You can show question feedback, show correct answers after your submissions. You can change what is visible to students. So if you don't want your students completing everything, you can remove things. I always have everything visible, because in my opinion, the more they do, the more interaction they have with the program, the more they're going to retain as far as the information goes. And then my attempt thresholds, I always leave blank. You can make it to where they have to do it. They can only do it once, do it twice. But again, I want my students to complete these things over and over and over until they get the grade they desire, because the more they see this stuff, the more they're going to retain for that final certification test. So again, what our side looks like versus what the student side looks like. On the student side, they can see those printable assignments. So they can actually print this stuff for themselves if they would like to. You can also print this stuff for them. So it just depends on how you want to work your classroom and your credentialing. As far as the interactive assignments go, they're online only. The students are going to be able to click on them. They're in the form of fill in the blank, drag and drop down menus, multiple choice questions, all of that fun stuff. The Animals in Society, so this lesson specifically has 5 assessments, and then we also have like that one assessment that has that green star. That green star assessment has to be completed online in order for them to move on to that final certification test. So that's another little side note as far as what our students have to do and what our students see. When I get to the paper version of this, I'm going to kind of show you this is what I do with students who want paper. But just know green stars mean that they have to complete that before they are able to move forward and do that final certification test. All right, so back to what I was talking about when I combined that information. So I combined the blueprint information and the ICV module or ICV lesson information for that certificate or certification. So I use an Excel form. I like Excel better than Google Sheets. That's just my preference, but I can make my Excel form a Google Sheet. I can convert it back and forth as needed. I create a modifiable blueprint document where I can add a column. So I have my standards, I have my objectives in this modifiable blueprint document, but I add that extra column for industry certification topics. And this is where I insert my topics into the blueprint so that I can see what aligns, what may not really align perfectly, and what I need to assign is review homework for my students. So if there are any modules that do not directly fit or any lessons that do not directly fit into my blueprint, I'm going to assign them on a week that maybe I don't have anything or a week that I need a homework assignment. I'm going to fit them in some way somehow. So this is what that looks like. And if you would like this, I can share it with you, especially those NC teachers that are here with me. This would fit perfect with your stuff because this is your standards as well. So I take Unit 1, for example. That's what I'm going to talk about for the rest of this kind of explanation that I'm going through. And I'm going to add in under 1.01 the veterinary medical terms and terminology lesson or module in the ICV certification. So my students would complete the curriculum, but then we're going to also add that module to the curriculum. The reason I do this is our state curriculum, in my opinion, is not as in-depth as ICV. Now, this is kind of one spot where I can flip that around a little bit. So our state curriculum has around 400 terms for our students to know in 1.01. But after that, ICV goes into way more depth than our state curriculum. So really this vet medical terms kind of backs up that state curriculum that we have to work with. But once you get down to the vet laws and ethics, pharmacology, math, all of that good stuff, all of that is actually extra and more than what our students are required to learn by the state. So the more they learn, the better we are. Sometimes I will actually even use the ICV certification module in place of the state curriculum. And I'll kind of explain that as well. But I do that because the ICV modules cover what the state requires, but in return, it also goes above and beyond. And so my students actually learn more than what the state really wants them to, which is awesome. Just kind of following up that weekly homework module, this is what it looks like. I have listed the modules that I use as a homework review. And again, what I'm getting ready to show you is going to be a little bit different because it was my module or my Canvas module during the pandemic, but I'm just going to share that with you and then talk a little bit about how I've intertwined all of this stuff together. So this is what I use for the weekly homework modules. As you can see, most of this is going to be a review from the previous courses they've taken with me. So online, how do I do fully online students? Well, it was a learning experience. When the pandemic hit, we locked down. Students were not allowed on campus for any reason. I had to figure out a way to do this. So I created placeholders in my learning management system, which happened to be Canvas for each module. And it looked like this. So you can see in the middle, the industry certification modules. When they clicked on these, there's nothing there. This just basically tells them to go to the ICV platform and complete these modules for this unit. So I aligned the certification modules with my curriculum like I showed you. And any modules that don't, like I said, any modules that don't align perfect, I use them as homework in other weeks. I do host online meetings. The online meetings review materials with students in each module. We go over any activities they don't understand. We do a Q&A and just kind of reinforce that information they learn. I use outside review sources, Quizlet, quizzes, things like that, that other students have made, my students make, I make, other teachers have made. We kind of steal, share, borrow, create all of those things and work to our best ability to review as much as we can. I hold online review sessions or two at the very end. We walk through that review module ICV provides, and then online, we log in, they have their cameras on, I proctor the exam virtually. You can use things like GoGuardian to monitor what they're doing on their computers while they're taking the exam. This only happens if they cannot come to campus. This past go around was the first time this has happened. I always do the test on campus, but because of the pandemic, we had to do things a little bit differently. Again, this is what it looks like on my Canvas module. I stick those modules in and we roll with it. Again, it was a learning experience for all of us. In person, I use a hybrid setting. So I don't specifically do everything in person for my students. This is typically what everything looks like for me on a normal school year. I still set up an online LMS. I used Weebly up until our district required Canvas. I switched to Canvas. I create my content layout just like what I showed you in that Canvas module. I include the placeholders. The only thing that's different in online and my in-person is that students are going to work on my coursework and the certification notes and content at home. I do almost a flipped classroom style. So they work on that stuff at home. And then when they come to me, this is when we're going to complete the hands-on activities. We're going to work on real-world applications. We're going to do skills. And ICV provides way more activities than you could possibly do in a semester with students. So I mix and match. I do ICV things. I do state curriculum things. I do hands-on skills. We practice some stuff that we do in competitions. We do a lot of things with this hybrid setting because I can do more in class when they're working on content at home. The more you review, the better they retain. I say that a lot in here, but it truly is true. The more you review, the better they're going to do. Then I review and proctor the exam in person. On paper, I'm going to run through this quickly. I'm going to run out of time, but ICV allows you to print things. I print stuff out for them. They put everything in a binder and they complete the assignments on a binder. They turn it in hard copy. I give them grades just like I do online. Yes, they complete them online or on paper. They still have to go in and complete those Green Star assessments, and they do have to test online, but this allows them to have that tangible thing. And if they learn better on paper, let them do paper. A few general tips that I'm going to give you before I have to close this out. Develop a grading system. You don't have to grade everything. Make sure you're grading enough to where your students put forth that effort so that it affects their grades. Set expectations, stand by them. When our assignments due, What are you requiring? Review, review, review. The more they see and use this content, the better off they're going to be. So to kind of conclude things, I hope that you got something out of this. I know I had to rush to the end. I was running a little bit out of time. This is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Also, any questions you have in the chat, please post them. I'll try to get back to you and respond. Thank you for joining my session. You'll automatically be rewarded points for attending the session. And then at the end of the conference, you're going to receive a digital certificate noting how many sessions you attended. I hope to see you during our live Q&A right after this. Thank you, guys.